Hey, you, welcome back to the channel. And guys, today we want to talk about the situation with Bitcoin, decentralization of wealth, and some price analysis that don't look too good for Bitcoin initially in the beginning, but I think it will. Even if this happens, I think that the price will turn around. But we're going to talk about some of the analysis of Bitcoin and why some are looking at it to go all the way from $15 to $800. And this isn't a Bitcoin FUD video. This is some information and details and some theories based on certain dynamics of the market and the fact that although Bitcoin has decentralization of security, we've seen many demonstrations that it's quite evident that there is centralization in the wealth of Bitcoin. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, how do they get all the way down to $15 and all the way in between $15 and up to $800? So, we had a video that was done previous to this that kind of discussed a little bit about how we arrived at the $800 or how some arrived at $800. So how did they get from that to $15? Well, there's some calculations have been done by people around the space, some people who are somewhat knowledgeable about what could happen in certain market conditions, and some have speculated because, of course, none of us really know, but they've come up with the idea that there are whales in Bitcoin walking around with 100,000 plus Bitcoin, and we know this, for a fact because we see the movement of their wallet moving back and forth. The idea is that if they were to sell about 1 million Bitcoin, which is possible, that it would be so catastrophic to the price of Bitcoin, selling that larger percentage of Bitcoin, that we could see Bitcoin fall all the way down to about $15 if 1 million Bitcoin were sold. Now, the chances of that happening, who knows? I have no idea. But if we get a big giant sell off of over 1 million Bitcoin, we could be looking at that. Now, we know there are people walking around with 100,000 plus Bitcoin, just sole individuals we know of. And one said person is said to be Craig Wright, or what we know as the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. And we see Bitcoin Satoshi Vision battling out with Bitcoin Cash. Now, these are two entities of groups of people that hold a large amount of Bitcoin. My confusion about it, or my concern rather, is seeing that they are saying that Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Satoshi Visions are the real Bitcoins. That makes this Bitcoin a fraud Bitcoin, which which we're looking at as the number one Bitcoin. Seeing that they are saying that, and seeing that miners have come over from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Satoshi Vision because mining was more profitable. We've seen those things happen. Then, if that's their vision and idea about they are the real Bitcoin, why would they stay invested in this version of Bitcoin, which is the number one? Wouldn't it make more sense for them to just dump that Bitcoin and reinvest in their own tokens? At some point, this could possibly happen. And if that were the case, this is where we get those catastrophic numbers like the $15 Bitcoin. Now, going on all the way up to the $800 Bitcoin, we discussed that a little bit earlier. That had to do with before the Chinese start to subsidize Bitcoin mining and various things like that. I guess in some minds, creating this kind of artificial rise in Bitcoin. But the more before the Chinese government got involved, the price of Bitcoin around $800 was being used by people for various things, from inflation to money laundering to to trying to get their money out of oppressive regimes. Some countries lock up your money; they won't let you take your money out of the country when you try to leave. And so Bitcoin seemed to be well around $800. So if this is all true, what do we do? You know, or is this just speculation, or is this just FUD? I don't honestly know, guys, but I can tell you this, that in dealing with a situation like this centralization of wealth, which I think is a fact and which we can see, is that low Bitcoin prices will, at the very least, create better distribution of Bitcoin, so these situations are less likely to happen. So as negative and as bad as things could get with Bitcoin, it might be for the better if, for us who support and believe that this Bitcoin in the number one spot is the real Bitcoin, right? Should be held as the real Bitcoin and not these other Bitcoins. But not to be negative of forks. I don't believe all forks are bad. I think some forks actually can help improve Bitcoin, such as Bitcoin MYK, which encourages mining of Bitcoin, and which is going for mass adoption and going for good distribution through programs like our Universal Basic Income program, which we invite you to watch those videos so you can see why that's so very important to mass adoption and good distribution, and avoiding these situations like what we have in Bitcoin that could possibly get worse. The market right now, $111 billion. We've seen a lot of money leave the market. So guys, again, the project I'm working on, Bitcoin MYK, I think it's going to be a great way to help prevent such issues like this in the future. Will be a link in the description. We'd love to have you come over, check it out, see if it's something you're interested in. But guys, that's all I want to talk about today. Guys, if you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and until next time, take care.